smoother. Do you want to remove this? Yes. So I remove the anonymous user. And normally root should only be allowed to connect from localhost. This ensures that someone cannot guess at the root password from a network. A common security infiltration technique is to just launch a brute force attack against an open port and try to randomly guess the username and password combination.
If you have enough GPUs, it works really well.
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of them though.
Well,
It also takes years.
no, not necessarily.
Depending on how secure people are. Yeah.
Right, depending on how secure they are, yeah. So disallow root login remotely, that sounds good to me. I want to be secure, so I'll hit yes. And then, by default, MySQL comes with a database named test that anyone can access. This is also intended for testing, should be removed before moving into production environment. Do you want to remove that? Yes, I want to remove that.
Okay.
Remove it, okay. Da, 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 da. Do you want to reload the privileged tables at this point? Yes. And now, probably the first thing we need to look at is how I get into MySQL. Now, interestingly enough, with Bionic, this version of Ubuntu that we're using, you can actually just type sudo MySQL and it drops you right into MySQL. But this has been the traditional way of doing it. You type MySQL minus U, the username you want to log in as, and then you type minus P that says, this prompt me for the password for the root user. And then prompt you with the password and you can log in. So that's how we do the installation. It's installed at that point. Then, after it's installed, we need to figure out what to do next. So, I'm not going to quite do that yet, but, oh yeah. So, log in as I'm going to log in as the root user. As I just said, in Bionic, you can just type sudo MySQL, and it will drop you as the root user. But this is the traditional way, again, in the way that I've done it. So you log in as the root user. Okay, so first off, when you're logged in, it drops you to this prompt, and it's MySQL prompt. Now I know you guys use MySQL in Bob's, right? MySQL.
Yes. Yeah.
So for some of you, this should be fairly old hat, right? First command we look at, and this is an administrative command, show databases. We'll list all the databases that exist on this MySQL installation. Okay, these are the default databases shipped with MySQL. Now, in Bionic, if you don't have all of them, that's okay. They might have tweaked things a little bit. The only real one we care about for our class is this MySQL database. Oh, that's weird. MySQL program has a MySQL database in it.
Yep.
And inside of that database, there are some tables. Remember, tables, a collection of rows and columns. There are some tables that govern permissions and users. So we can go look at some of those tables. All right, the next command we look at is use. So if I say use MySQL, that means any of my subsequent commands that I execute will be executed against the MySQL database. Database changed. Okay? So now if I say show tables, it shows me all the tables that exist in the MySQL database. And we don't care about hardly any of them. Maybe two of them we will look at, 2 or 3. The ones that govern users and permissions. And yada, yada, yada. Oh, there's the user table right there. We can get information about a table with the describe statement. So if I say describe user, it'll show me all the fields that exist in that table. Okay, pretty long. Now this statement is actually a statement that, okay, we don't really need to know as a database administrator, but I mean, we kind of do, but it's focused more on in Bob's class. This is a way to extract rows from the database. So I can say, hey, from the user table, go ahead and show me all the rows of that table, but show me just the host and the user columns. So there's 3 entries in there, and we'll get back and we'll look at this later when we actually add some stuff. But that retrieves rows from our table. Describe DB. that shows me information about the database. I think the database was called DB, no, describe. I think that was another table actually. So gives me more information, and this is the table that contains our privileges, and we will manipulate that eventually. So here's another select statement. Show me all the rows from my DB table, but just show me the user field, the host field, and the DB field. We'll analyze that later. And then quit will get us out of the MySQL prompt. Okay, so there's our first look at MySQL. Let's delve a little deeper. So to manage MySQL users, log in using the MySQL -u root -p, get back to your MySQL prompt. Okay, so if I do show databases, we see those databases again. First thing I'm going to do is create a new database. Hogwarts. That's from both a movie, Harry Potter.
Whoa.
Wait, what?
I know.
Never heard of that before.
So, we need to create a new database. And if I do show database, you can see it show up there. Now I'm going to use the Hogwarts database, meaning anything I type after this will be applied against the Hogwarts database, and I show tables in there. By default, there's no tables because I haven't created any. You can drop a database, say drop database Hogwarts, show database again, it's gone. I know, for some of you it's like, I already know how to do this. Good for you. But I gotta show you how to do it, in case those that don't. I'll create it again. Okay, so now if I do a statement like this, select user, comma, host from user, oh, hey, you haven't selected a database for me. Well, I'm gonna use my MySQL database. I wanna show you, this is our user table again, that I showed you on the last set of slides, and I haven't created any new users yet. So I'm going to create a new user. Create user, this syntax we need to learn. This is the administrative syntax. Create user, Ron at localhost. Remember, a user now is identified by the full username and the host they're logging in from. And then identified by Weasley. That's going to be the password. This is a character on Harry Potter. Create user, awesome. So now if I look at that table again, notice Ron is in there at localhost. I'm creating another user, Draco. There's his password. You can also see now Draco's in there. Drop user. We'll delete a user. And now Ron doesn't exist in there anymore. Be comfortable with doing this on an exam. I typically will give you a database, maybe with some users already created. I'll say, go drop this user or go get rid of this user, and you know how to do it. If you're having to look up everything, you might be able to, you're going to run out of time, so you should need to know how to do these quick. You can see that Ron was dropped. Show databases, we have Hogwarts. I can see Draco's in there now. Okay, so the second set is, after we create the user, we need to specify privileges for the user. And this is the grant statement. And typically it's done like this. You say grant, and then you specify what you want them to be able to do. For our class, we're just going to say grant all privileges. If you just wanted them to have insert permissions or select permissions, or delete, whatever, delete, you can specify that here. But we're going to let Draco at localhost have all privileges on the Hogwarts database. And notice right here I specify the database, and asterisk means what? All the tables in the Hogwarts database he has permissions to. Now if I go look at this other table, the DB table, I do have an entry now showing Draco at localhost has access to the Hogwarts database. So I have two tables that I'm really dealing with, and these are the only two tables that we really care about for this class. I have the user table, Draco's in there, and then I have his permissions over here in the DB table. Here's another example, and this is the one I memorize and the way I typically do it, because this longer statement, notice Lucius doesn't exist. This longer statement will actually create Lucius and grant him permissions at the same time. So grant all privileges on Hogwarts.stars with Lucius, a localhost, identified by Death Eater.
I think it's the heater, like,
That's
bug
true.
spray, he thinks another.
Yeah. So that is, I like that statement. If you can memorize that one, you will be able to add a user,